Buzzing from the epic road down the Shafer Trail, we continued our journey further south, ready to explore more of what the US national parks had to offer. First stop, Capitol Reef National Park. To get there, we rode long stretches of arrow straight highways, but boredom, not a chance. The scenery kept changing, desert ridges, rocky outcrops, and open sky. It was late in the day, and the heat had worn us down, so we pulled into a gas station for a cold drink, and we were surprised to find the shop was built inside a mountain. As the sun dipped lower, we found a perfect wild camp near the park, right next to a dry riverbed that shimmered with soft evening light. It felt remote, peaceful, and just right. We cooked dinner, crawled into our tent, and called it a night. But sleep didn't come easy. Out of nowhere, a sudden sandstorm hit. Not outside the tent, inside the tent. It only lasted a few minutes, but left its mark. Sand in our bags, our mouths, our eyes. A reminder that in the desert, nature doesn't knock before entering. The next morning, we finally rode into Capitol Reef. And again, wow. The US national parks are really something else. We were blown away by the colors, the scale, the silence. Because we carry everything on our motorcycles, we usually just ride through, take in the views from the saddle, snap a few photos, and keep moving. The hikes and deep exploration, that's a dream for another trip, maybe with lighter gear and different boots. Later that same day, we made it to Bryce Canyon National Park, another jaw-dropping place, famous for its stone spires and surreal landscape. And once again, we found a wild campsite nearby. So far, we hadn't paid for a single night in the US, and every spot felt like it belonged on the postcard. At that site, we spotted another adventure rider across the trees. We waved, he waved back, no conversation, just that unspoken connection you feel on the road. Funny enough, we would see him again soon, because next up on our route, Las Vegas. We weren't sure if we would go at first, but being this close, it felt like one of those places you have to see. A bucket list destination, whether you like it or not. But there was a catch. We wanted to go later, but the Mr. Olympia, the massive bodybuilding event, was about to start. Hotels, insane prices. So we said we go now to Las Vegas. A friend told us about Hotwire. With one lucky click, we landed a crazy deal. Suddenly, after months of riding, sweating, and sleeping in a tent, we were checking in into the Las Vegas Hilton at Resorts World. 4.5 stars. Air conditioning, clean sheets, felt like stepping into another dimension. But before we could even enjoy it, something else came up. We heard Mosko was hosting a meetup at the Harley-Davidson dealership in town. We couldn't miss that. So in 38 degrees Celsius heat, we rolled up and grabbed a cold drink. And that's where we met Justin, Warthog Bike, an incredible guy with stories and energy to match. One chat turned into dinner, and that dinner turned into something even better. Justin told us his friend just arrived in town and would join us. We shared amazing stories, and somehow we realized that this friend was the same adventure rider we waved 2 days earlier. His name is Dan. 4 bikes, 2 different paths, and somehow we all ended up at the same table in Las Vegas. Together we hit the old Vegas Strip the next day, and honestly, we liked it more than the new one. It had grit, soul, character. While the rest of Vegas, too shiny, too loud, a city of neon dreams and broken promises. But Vegas had a last surprise for us. On our final night, we were spontaneously invited to a Moto Dusty Lizard event in Death Valley, a place we'd always dreamed of visiting. And now, not only where we were going, we were riding there with Justin and Dan. The next morning we packed up, revved their engines, and pointed our front wheels to Bodie, Nevada. We met Chris and Stacy again, 2 familiar faces from Moto's Bates Motel campground. This time it was at the Dusty Lizard event. We pitched our tent and soaked in their atmosphere. It's always special when so many like-minded riders come together. This event, one we'll never forget. Oh, and Sven, he rode his first ever Harley-Davidson. Justin took him out for an off-road test ride on the Pan America. Definitely a wild first. And then another surprise. Reunited with our friend Kuhn, who we hadn't seen since Bulgaria. Now he works for Mosko. Small world, big connections. After the Dusty Lizard, we continued north. Next on our list, Yosemite National Park. But first, a tip from our new friend Dan, Mono Lake. An ancient, otherworldly lake, over 1 million years old. It looked like something from another planet. Nearby, we found a perfect wild camp spot, with a panoramic view of the lake that felt unreal. One of those places where the silence says everything. The next morning, we packed up early and headed to Bodie, the historic gold mining ghost town. We arrived just before the park opened, and for a moment it was all ours. Wandering through the empty streets frozen in time, absolutely worth the detour if you're near Yosemite. Then it was time for Yosemite itself. Our expectations sky high, and still it blew us away. Towering cliffs, endless valleys, and El Capitan, the legendary vertical rock face. Seeing it in real life, surreal. But the biggest shock, fuel prices in California. Let's just say, painful. From there, we headed south to Sequoia National Park, home of the giant trees, including the famous General Sherman tree, the largest tree on Earth by volume. With squeaky Tech 7s and wide eyes, we made our way through the forest of giants. But as the sun set, the heat lingered, and we had no luck finding a wild camp spot. Hotels, not an option, so we turned to Bunker Biker once again. And even though the host wasn't home, her son welcomed us in and offered a room. The kindness of strangers never ceases to amaze us. This time we actually had a plan. We needed to check the valve clearance on both bikes, something we'd never done before. Thankfully, Randy, our new host in Yuma, Arizona, offered his help and his workshop. Getting there was a ride through the fern ants. We thought we'd seen hot, but in Quartzsite, just before Yuma, we hit 42 degrees Celsius, with barely any humidity. We took shelter in a McDonald's for a full 2 hours, grateful for air conditioning and cold soda. That night, we found a wild camp spot in Kofa National Wildlife Refuge. Even after sunset, the heat lingered, 26 degrees Celsius at its coolest, but with hot ground beneath us, our sleeping pad insulation worked in reverse. We woke up to one of the most stunning sunrises of our trip, and then it was time, off to Randy's place. He and his wife Jody welcomed us like old friends. We rolled up our sleeves literally, a full service on both bikes and scorching 40 degrees Celsius plus heat. But it wasn't just work, it was joy, shared meals, laughs and stories. Sven helped Randy in the workshop. I cooked and baked German classics. Together we went to our first ever US fair, tasted funnel cake, discovered fair food madness and soaked it all in. And just when we thought it couldn't get better, Randy surprised us with NFL tickets, our very first football game. And yes, finally we understood the rules. We had planned to stay just a few days, but in the end we spent over 2 incredible weeks with them and we'll never forget it.